Hey everyone, Studio here. Welcome back. Today I wanted to talk about experimentation with art, using a piece that I used to experiment myself with. This video is going to be one of my longer ones, so bear with me, please and thank you. I have a lot to talk about, because it's a big subject, and I could probably end up dividing this up in the future into more videos, because there's a bunch of like little subsections that go along with all of these that I won't mention here. Hopefully, unless I ramble again. Anyway, let's go. So first off, let's discuss the piece at hand. This was a raffle prize that I did for my friend Namho, who entered and won the 3rd place raffle. It's of her Wendigo-inspired character. He has 2 sides associated with him, one that's whimsical and one that's horror, which brings into play my first experimentation that I did with this piece, which is a split face view, as you can see. I honestly couldn't decide which side I wanted to do, so they both ended up making their way into the plan. And I was nervous about it for a lot of reasons, since the fleshy face is more deer-like and the skull is definitely based off of a deer skull. So I don't have a lot of experience with either of those. In fact, whenever I try to draw a deer, they're typically pretty disproportional. Something with Anguilla, I just can't get their skinny legs to look not like twigs. Anyway, so I ended up sketching for a very long while with this, adjusting proportions, deciding on antler shape, copying the antler shape over so I didn't have to redraw it. It was just a lot of sketching, erasing, reworking before I even got to the little details of the flowers and the flesh strips. Which you'll see a little bit later. They're kind of like dangling off the horn. They're pretty cool, you know, not to toot my own horn or anything. The next big challenge I gave myself was trying a painterly approach and attempting some rendering. So rendering is a subject I still don't quite grasp how to do. It's a really simple definition, you know, in reality it's just fleshing out the details, adding volume, adding depth, etc., you know, getting that illusion of life through your art. Which, you know, simple definition, one of those things that's like, how do I do this? So I've always fallen a little short with it, even in my painterly style where, you know, it's supposed to be part of that. So as a part of this, I decided to do all the coloring and the shading at once, figuring out how the lighting would interact with the color of the fur and the color of the skull. So I chose a blue and orange lighting scheme because I like it. It's complementary colors, it looks nice. Something that was a little easier to work with. And the end product wasn't nearly as dramatic as I had wanted because I didn't let myself really just go wild with the colors. But I was pretty proud with how I managed to bring out the shapes and the volume of the piece, and I was pretty happy with the fact that I stuck with that and did that. And of course, I decided to push myself one last time with all the flowers and painting every single flower individually. No copy-paste. Oh, you know, just what you do on a normal day. So the whole thing was very daunting. And it took a total of 7 hours, approximately. Give or take a little bit, you know. I did it all on stream. I took breaks in between, so the footage says 7 hours, but there's maybe like 30 to 60 minutes of that is me like taking breaks. Probably around 45 minutes of that is me taking some breaks. But yeah, so it was 7 hours, and I had to cut down a lot of it to bring the video down to any kind of respectable length. Even sped up, it was 50 minutes long, and now it's 19 and a half. So if you want to see the full process, I will be uploading the Twitch Vods for this. There's 3 in total. So go check those out whenever they're up, if you want to see it. I took a lot of risks, and I managed to get out to the very end despite all of my hangups and fears with this. There were numerous times when I thought to myself, maybe I'll just go back to the easier methods that I use, but I knew that I wouldn't build any more skills. I wouldn't improve any of my skills if I did that, and I wouldn't feel satisfied at the end if I didn't push forward with challenge. So That's what I did. I stuck to it. And I was correct in my assumptions. It's a great payoff. It was especially easy to experiment with this one just because it was a raffle prize rather than a commission, so I had full freedom. The only expectation was that it was supposed to be this character and that it was supposed to be a finished piece. So that little ramble about that brings me to the point of the whole video, which is not being afraid to tackle new subjects, new media, new techniques, which I know a lot of people are afraid of. I'm afraid of doing it. I don't like to do it very often. Well, I do, but you know what I mean. It's hard to do. It's thinking of trying something new, of doing something you don't quite know how to do. It sparks a lot of nerves. You don't even want to pick up your pen or your pencil, or if you do, you don't want to put it to the canvas or to the paper or to the tablet. It's a little easier with digital art for me, at least. I can erase things easily and I don't waste any materials. But you just have to push past it and you have to start. Which is easier said than done. But I promise you can do it. Because at the end of the day, we all know that the best way to improve and to learn new skills is to work on getting our art to finally match what we see in our heads or hold in our own expectations, is to just create more art. And not like just creating art mindlessly though, like, because that stalls us. That stalls us in our improvement. If you go for the same thing over and over without ever trying something different or having a new aim or goal set out, it often stagnates your work and it prevents that true improvement. We have to actively think about trying something new or learning a new skill, even if it's something just small, like a new brush technique or trying a new color scheme, or something as big as a new subject that you've never done before, like deer. But it's really difficult sometimes, you know? I mean, I'm sure you know, it's the universal artist thing, not knowing how to begin that. And for me, the terror comes from the high possibility of failure. You know, failing to create something at the same level as your other works. It keeps me from starting a piece, from putting color to the piece, from rendering the piece, from even finishing the piece. I have something that I started that I wanted to do like full painterly, and it's just sitting there. I have not finished it. It's been sitting there for like 6 months, and I have not touched it since. And the only way to overcome this is to start whatever you're doing. Maybe start with the easiest part, or maybe by doing some study sketches first to get the anatomy right, to get a feel for it, to understand the shapes and the forms. Whatever it is, you have to get your hand moving, and then you have to get the creativity flowing with that, and then you use that momentum to overcome your initial nerves. Now, of course, it's easier to say it than it is to do it. It's extremely difficult times to get going on a challenging or new piece. And it keeps being that way. It doesn't get easier as you go along. That's not something to be afraid of, though. It's actually a good thing when you really think about it. And like, stay with me. Stay with me. In my own experience, the nerves come back often throughout the process, and they often lead to my own frustration. I'm trying a lot of new things, I'm challenging myself, all that good stuff. So of course I'm meeting walls and obstacles and getting frustrated with it, which is why that frustration is a good sign. It's not fun, it's not enjoyable to be frustrated, but it's a good sign. This is the biggest challenge I face when I'm experimenting, because the frustration builds on that fear of failure and can very, very easily make me stop working and abandon the piece, like I had mentioned earlier. So it's extremely important to recognize the frustration for what it is in order to overcome it. Which, the frustration is a sign that you're meeting those challenges you set up for yourself. You didn't set a challenge that wasn't a challenge. You set a challenge that was meant to make you better. So you get frustrated when you meet it, just like anything. And it's all about having a healthy relationship with your art and your art process and yourself. Knowing where your limits are and when you need to take that break. Because at the end, the frustration is only that. It's the frustration that you're meeting walls and having difficulties. And when I feel it building, and I don't have an easier area of the piece to work on, or I don't want to work on it anymore, or I don't have something else that I want to work on, I take a quick break. I'll take a few minutes to just stretch and breathe. I'll get up and walk, I'll look away from the piece for a little while, and I'll come back to it so I can look at it with a calmer state and I can find solutions to the problems. And like I mentioned earlier, the problems, the walls, are good signs. You don't want to get, you'll get frustrated, but you don't want to let it rule you. It's indicators that you're pushing your skills and you're growing them and you're testing your artistic abilities and you're widening them. And it's very important for me to realize that the walls are there to tell me I'm going in the right direction. I have indeed found something I need to work on, and I've begun that process of working on it. So at the end of the piece, when you've pushed and prodded and you found your ways around those walls, the payoff can be amazing. And sometimes it's hard to recognize that, though. Because maybe you don't like the finished product because it took so much time and it gave you so much frustration and it just doesn't measure up to your other works or what you wanted to make when you set out to do this challenge. So you should take a break, you should take a walk, you should look at it later, all that stuff they tell you. Just don't tear it apart immediately. Because once you've got that distance, you'll see the piece for what it is. It's something that tested your limits and shows your effort and improvement. But I see a lot of artists who have a bad relationship with their work, and it stymies the process. And I can't quite remember who it was, but there's an artist that I seen one or two of his videos on YouTube, and he had mentioned that a lot of artists view their art as an extension of themselves, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But when they do that, it means that any critique is a critique of themselves. And it leads to being overly critical of your work because you view it as yourself, and if it's not to your own standards, what does that say about you? And it's, artists put pieces of themselves into their own work. It's not bad to see your work as an extension of yourself, but it is bad to see your work as the only extension of yourself, as though it is you in a creative form. You have to understand that it's an expression of you, but it is not you. You are the one who created it, and it doesn't mean that you are bad or that you are not worthy of your own praise just because you think you could have done better on that art. And when you get thinking like that, nothing is good enough. You could have always done better. So many other more talented artists, and you just don't measure up. So unfortunately, a lot of times that means that artists don't allow themselves to feel the satisfaction of a job well done. And I used to do that too. I worked hard to not do that because I did not like it. I had to cultivate a good relationship through proper self-critique and analysis of the process. So first, let's talk about looking back at your art process. You'll see lots of walls, lots of challenges, lots of frustration, but the piece is finished despite that. And that means the frustration did not win. It means the walls did not stop you. It means that you overcame the challenges you gave yourself. You found new ways around or over or through each one in your own way. So you've begun developing a new skill or a new ability, even if you aren't super pleased with the end product. It's there as a testament to your effort. And you can only learn from it for the next time you try these things. No foundation is made well overnight. Nothing stands strong if you do it too quickly. And that speed is different for everyone, of course, but it typically takes a while. So you should view any art piece as a stepping stone, especially with your older art. I look back at my older art as the stepping stones they were. They're not great. I have improved so much. But I look back at that and I can remember either, wow, I was really unhappy with that, or wow, I was really proud of that. And I can recognize them as, hey, here was me at this level with this skill. Here is me now at this level with this skill. I've improved because I did this piece. So, it's good to do that. And proper self-critique is also very important, as it involves, both finding what you could have done better or that you needed to improve upon, as well as acknowledging all the parts that you're proud of or that you accomplished something on or that you just like how they look, which is how you can view things as more of a stepping stone. It helps build your confidence in your work, it teaches you what to look for in others' works, and then you can implement that in your own work later on. So I'll do a quick example for this piece. I feel like I could have pushed the colors to create more dynamic or dramatic lighting. That's something I really struggle with. I could have done that to give more depth and energy to this piece. I also have a lot of hang-ups with the background on it. And in the future, I'd like to implement some borders and more texture to make the background more interesting, marry it to the rest of the piece, not draw attention away from the focal points, but give it more to look at so it doesn't just look like a flat background that I pasted on at the end because I needed to finish it. As for what I like about it, I'm very proud of the rendering I did, even if I feel like I could improve upon it, especially upon the skull. I love the color and the shapes of the flowers, and overall, I'm really pleased with the shapes and the overall composition of the focal points that I managed to, you know, put my idea on paper with that. And it can be hard, you know, to go back and do that, but if you ever feel bad about a piece, my only suggestion is that you should take a break and step away from it. You should take some time later on to come back when you've kind of calmed down from that frustration and find at least one thing that you like about it that, you know, you really enjoy, either it's part of the process or it's an end product. And you can start growing that self-confidence, you can start growing that healthy relationship with your work. So it's not so much, well, I could have done better. Why didn't I do better? And it becomes more, I could have done better, but maybe I couldn't have. I did these amazing things here, and I know what to do in the future now because of it. This is my stepping stone, let me use it. I hope that made sense. This is something I'm all over a lot. You know, those sleepless nights where you're super tired, you go to lay down and suddenly your brain just wakes up. Maybe that's just an anxiety thing, but your brain wakes up and you just can't stop thinking about things. It's something I'm all over a lot while I'm working, while I'm relaxing, and it's something that I like to impart upon any of my artist friends when I get the chance, and they seem like they need a little bit of encouragement. So, let me see, because I know it was probably a little jumbled. I spent time going over this and trying to make it coherent. So I guess, if I was to give you guys takeaways for this, it is, your art is not solely who you are. So critiques are not about you. They are about the piece, and they are advice. All of your art is a stepping stone to where you will be. So you need to view it as a way forward and not a wall in and of itself. Frustration is difficult, but it means that you've found something you need to work on and you're heading in the right direction. Take breaks. Definitely take breaks. I think those are I believe that was 4 key takeaways. Yeah, so that's about it. Creating this whole video had its own challenges that I relished and feared in equal measure, and I've learned quite a bit from it, and I've already begun optimizing and improving a lot of areas, like my art process, my video editing, and even my organization of my projects. As scary as it is to actively take on new things, it's incredibly important to improving as an artist, and I find it improves how I view myself and my art in equal measure. I learn my limits, I feel accomplished for testing them, and I feel pleasantly surprised when things feel easier the next time I draw. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to watch me draw in real time, I stream every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday on Twitch at Studio Shadows. And if you feel so inclined, please leave a like or a comment on the video. I love feedback and hearing from my viewers, and subscribe if you would like to see any more videos like this. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!